with your hosts, Andrew Romanella.
I don't think I'm good enough in this spot based on my own personal mental health, so I can't continue.
The first problem is with the owner of the Carolina Panthers. Okay, you're an idiot. Seriously, you're an idiot.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to another edition of The Rome Show here on 12ouncesports.com and Dingo TV, channel 217. I am your host, Andrew Romanella. I got you for the next 30 minutes or so. We have so much to dive into today. First, we let you know you got to follow us on the social media, The Rome Show. One that is Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, whatever the social media is, just go ahead and follow us on that, and you'll be able to stay locked in on the show. Any aspect of the show you missed, the Rome Show podcast, wherever you get your podcast, and of course, the Rome Show shop. Everybody knows the drill. We got a great show for you today. Besides the fact that we're going to dive into some football in the National Football League, some football in college football, some NIL again in MLB, we are going to be joined by the one, the only, Rocky Romanella. That is right. We get our favorite segment back today. That's Hockey with Rocky. Yep, let me hear it from you in the back. I know the people are excited. It is not Tuesday, which is generally our Hockey with Rocky day. It is Wednesday, but Rocky will be joining us on the show at some point in the next 10 minutes. We can talk about his birthday celebration and then the good stuff. I want to get into a story that I find extremely interesting right off the jump here when it comes to name, image, and likeness. So that is going to be where we're going to go straight off the Rome today to start the show. I need a sounder for this one, like straight off the Rome, you know, something like that. But either way, so name, image, and likeness. We have had this conversation at a ridiculously high rate on the Rome Show. And shout out to Mike Carvelis writing in. I tell you, everybody, you can write in on the comments section live and we could read it on the show. Mike's tuned in. Fire me up. Listen, NIL changed college athletics, okay? I've come on these airwaves before and I've talked to you about the good, the bad, the indifferent of name, image, and likeness, okay? And the bottom line is, once you opened up the door to student athletes making money off of their name, their image, and their likeness, college athletics as an amateur, and I have quotes up for those that aren't watching me and they're just listening, college sports as an amateur product went right out the window, okay? No matter what you can think, they might be going to get a degree. It might be college by the general form of what college is. But at the end of the day, the athlete, the student in the NIL situation is no longer operating like a regular college student. Well, that has continued to snowball downhill as we've gotten farther and farther away from the 2021 decision to start NIL. And we've gotten closer to the new age of college athletics, which is revenue sharing with the athletes. So what does that mean? When a school makes money off of an athlete being an athlete in their colors, whatever the money at the gate is, whatever money is made off of concessions, whatever money is made off of selling apparel, whatever money is made inside that sporting event, there will be revenue shared back to the student athletes. So now, not only can you make money off your name, your image, and your likeness, but if you are somebody that might not be capitalizing on name, image, and likeness, maybe you are somebody on the swim team. You could be the best swimmer in the country, but haven't had the opportunity to be able to get yourself an NIL deal. Maybe you're on the track team. Maybe you're on cross country. Maybe you're a women's or a men's volleyball player. Maybe you're just not a football player. You know, put it that way for a quick second. And I know the highest earners aren't just football players. It's actually conversely not football, gymnastics. But we're not going to get into that conversation. Just watch The Money Game on Netflix where it follows NILSU, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But my point is, There are going to be athletes. There are going to be sports that are going to have companies and others that want students, athletes, I should say, in their company with NIL. They're going to find those deals. Okay. So revenue sharing changes the landscape at a 90th percentile degree. And here's why. Now, you look at a school less about the NIL deal for a lot of these sports and more about what is the revenue sharing opportunity for me, the athlete. Okay. You can revenue share according to the NCAA. I'm going to pop this up on my screen. You can revenue share up to $22 million of the annual revenue of your athletic department with the athletes. The revenue sharing plan will begin next fall. So how did this conversation start for me? Well, the University of Tennessee just announced that they're going to add, a 10% talent fee. You heard that correctly. A 10% talent fee to every single athletics event ticket during the 2025 season. They will also be adding essentially 4.5% on every football ticket you will purchase at a Volunteers game. These added talent fees are going directly to this revenue sharing pot for the Tennessee Vols athletes. The athletic director, Danny White, said it pretty simply, and the quote is up on the screen, but I will read it for you. He said this: "In this era of name, image, and likeness, NIL, there has never been as close a connection between resources and competitive success," said White, noting that Tennessee had captured the last 3 SEC all sports trophies, and they want to be a leader in college sports. That means we want to be a leader in revenue sharing. And there is no being great at college sports without leading in the revenue sharing category once this kicks off. There's no being great at college sports if there's no leading in the NIL category when this started in 2021. And the interesting part about the Money Game show that is on Netflix right now that essentially follows LSU, Jaden Daniels, Livy Dunn, one of their track athletes, one of their basketball athletes. It follows them and kind of explains to you how NIL works, but also is kind of showing you how drastically different being a college athlete is now than it was even 2, 3, 4 years ago. For the high-level NIL earners, the NIL is a full-time job. Making money off your name, image, and likeness is the most full-time job that you could possibly have. But they're making hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars for creating this content, wearing these brands, or being supported by these people. And the bottom line is what Tennessee is doing is very smart. And if you read a little bit farther into what is on the screen, there was a settlement by the NCAA and the power conferences in what was a case called House versus the NCAA, where, as I mentioned before, the schools are to share up to $22 million of their annual revenue with athletes. Schools are becoming increasingly creative in how to raise money, and many college leaders believe the revenue sharing model recently proposes only the beginning of collective bargaining at some point. So let's go back to the beginning of the show. When I started straight off the roam, and I said to the people, when NIL hit college athletics in 2021, college athletics would no longer be the same. And right there, the AD of a major school in the SEC says that he believes we're on the path to a collective bargaining agreement, which is, for layman's terms, called a CBA, which is that thing that you might not know what it is, but whenever you hear a league might go on strike because they haven't signed a new CBA, that's what they're talking about. So you collectively bargain between the owners of the teams, or in this case, the universities, and the players of the team, or in this case, the student athletes. And that is where we believe we're trending. I've said this before. I do believe we are trending towards just the Power 5 conferences. They are NCAA Division I or whatever you want to call them. And then every other conference in Division I gets absorbed into what is the same visual as the FBS and the FCS in NCAA football, right? The North Dakota states, the Appalachian states, they are in the football championship series. Whereas Michigan's, Tennessee's, Florida's, Alabama, Georgia, that is the FBS, the football bowl subdivision, okay? Now that the FBS has a 12-team playoff, the FCS always had a 16-team playoff. They kind of mirror each other now, but the reason it was FCS and FBS, this was essentially considered Division I AA football, whereas what you watch on TV every weekend, SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, AAC, those conferences were all FBS Division I. So I think the whole country is going to turn into that, where it's like, give me the SEC, the ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12. And now that the Pac-12 is kind of reforming itself, the Pac-12, those are your Power 5 Division I conferences. And then you make everybody else, the MAC, Conference USA, CAA, AAC, all these other things, Division II. Or if you can't stand the thought of the number 2 and not 1 next to your athletes' names, which is fine, because I was a Division II athlete and I could see how you wouldn't want that. You just make it Division I AA, like it was in football prior to all of this letter adding, and Division I A. You go Division I A, Division I AA, Division II, done. And I think everybody in the country should be able to give out money. They should eliminate the Division III model from the standpoint of you can't give your athletes something. And each level of sport should have a certain amount of money they can give to. Okay, if your NCAA Division I, well, we've already learned you can revenue share, you can NIL. Now, all of us could do that, but let's have a real conversation for a quick second here on who's going to do that. You can revenue share, you can do all that, NIL, great. Division I AA can also do some of that stuff, but there's also up to $100,000 worth of scholarship money, or the percentage is given to you based on the amount of players on your roster. But the max is, let's say, $500,000 for sake of conversation. Then Division II, you could give maybe up to $200,000 on your roster worth of scholarship money. And then whatever Division III was, if it still exists, you allow the coaches to give something. Okay, to give something, because one of the biggest fallacies in the world is that the Division III is anything different than Division I from the standpoint of the sport. The sport's exactly the same. The only thing that's different is the amount of games you play per year, the amount of time you get with your athletes, and how much money you can give them. So let's open up the door here for everybody to give money. Why are we going to continue to try and sell this Fukaki idea of Division III athletics when everybody else in the country is going to find a way to make money? Why can't my Division III athlete that was named Player in the Year in our conference, why can't he go make money off his name, image, and likeness, right? Maybe if I gave that kid $10,000 a year towards his academic money and he didn't have to pay that much to go to school, he wouldn't have to go work another job, he could start to promote himself a little bit more on social media. You don't have to be the best athlete in the world to make money off of this. It's actually the opposite. We're seeing some of the highest NIL earners are athletes that aren't even the primary athlete on their team. They just did a great job of taking advantage of social media and the resources around them. And then, of course, the fact that they are a gymnast at LSU. They do run track at Oklahoma State. They are on the swim team at Arkansas. Well, dang, does that 7,500 followers that you have, or that 70, or in some of these cases, 2,500, 50,000, like these kids have some followers, but some of these athletes are not the prime player on their team. And this is why I urge you to watch NILSU, because it's going to open up your eyes to the fact that you can be an NIL earner in this day and age by not being the best player on your team. And I find that very awesome. And so let's just break the whole thing wide open. Okay, let's look at the NCAA as a whole and say, okay, we've entered the time of athletes need to make money to it somehow. If that's the case, break it down to 1 1 AA, 2, and 3, and just give everybody levels. Hey, Division 3, you play 50 games a year in baseball. You can give up to $50,000 to combine your roster, and you can do whatever the hell else you want because it's the Wild West. Hey, Division 2, you can give up to $150,000. You can X, Y, and Z. That is exactly how it should be. The NCAA, as we know it, in my opinion, is a little bit of a fallacy. It is. And it is unfortunately something that is so different moving forward than it ever has been. So I got on my little rant there, and Rocky's little bubble showed up underneath all the stuff, but I did not see him on there. But Rocky is here now. We're going to bring him on to the show. Rocky Romanella is back and better than ever. Now, inside the glass, hockey with Rocky.
What's going on, everyone? This is Braxton Whitehead here for Hockey with Rocky. How you doing?
We are good. Happy birthday. Welcome back. How you feeling?
I feel great. I'm in Orlando, Florida right now at a work thing, and feeling good. Weather's great. Had a nice run around Disney Springs this morning, so life is good.
So on location in Orlando, I know you heard the conversation I was just having. Give me your thoughts.
It's so when I think about NIL, like I know everyone's going crazy, but I mean, it's no different than being a TikTok influencer, and it's no different than being an influencer right now. And so, I have a daughter who's 6 years old, right? Sophia, like every time she makes a video, she wants me to post it on YouTube. Every time she does a video, she's like, "Oh, can you post it on the internet?" Right? So you have a generation of kids who are, I want to be an influencer. I want to be this. So, like you were talking at the end about the Division 3 athletes, like if you want to make your money, you don't have to worry about, you can complain about NIL all you want. Just go be an influencer. They can't stop you.
Yeah, and that's my point. So True Recruits wrote in on YouTube, why cap the NIL from schools? I'm not saying you cap the NIL. I'm saying you open up the model to every level gets athletic scholarship money and can be NIL. So everyone can currently be NIL now, but you currently have levels of athletes that can't get paid by the school from an athletic scholarship standpoint, which makes absolutely no sense. So my point, Rock, is this: if you can make $5 to $7 to $8 million at Division I, why don't we just open the whole thing up? Everybody can get athletic scholarships and anyone can make NIL. Just the difference is maybe D3, D2 have less athletic scholarship they can give out. But why do we even pretend to sell you can go to school and play sports without getting money back anymore? Because it's kind of not even a thing.
No, it's a completely new landscape, and it's interesting. Like at the same time, it seems as though Division I athletics is really elevating itself to, I would call it semi-professional. When you look at the revenue sharing model, like if every Division I athlete's going to get a piece of the pie, right? You're a semi-professional organization, and are you attending that university to be a representative of their athletics department, or are you attending that university to be a student? And the term student athlete, and to the NCAA, it seems, is really just left for those in the Division III world where, the money that schools have and is just really not the same. At the same time, all this is going on, there's actually two things. There's a hockey related story that I'm going to bring up, but quickly, the cost of tuition is a huge topic of conversation right now. And, in some of these schools, does the athletic money help reduce tuition? No, it actually is driving the cost of school up for the remainder of the students. So it's really placing a different degree of like what is this school going to be known for? Are we going to be known for our academics or are we going to be known for our athletics? And I don't necessarily know what Alabama does outside of sports.
That's a great
what do they do? Like I don't know. Like I Delaware just elevated to FBS or they went above Division I AA. But I know that Delaware, I know about their nursing program. I know about their engineering program. Now I went there, so it's easy for me to know that. Right. But unless I'm watching a game, like I'm watching Georgia, Kentucky the other night, it's the only time I'm seeing a commercial for Kentucky.
Right. It's such a good point. Yeah.
Like I don't know what they do, right? And if I've talked to anyone who's been to those schools, like I work with a couple of people, they went to Clemson. Um, they went for the atmosphere from a sports standpoint. I don't necessarily know if they went to find their career.
For the academics. Exactly. And then you fall into you're right. And then what do you do if you're Duke? What do you do if you're Princeton? And now the Ivy Leagues are always going to label as the Ivy League, but you have Stanford, a lot of elite Division I schools that I would agree, Rocky, most people probably know about them because Tiger Woods went there or John Elway went there or the band is on the field more or less than I could tell you Stanford's an elite academic school, but I couldn't run you through the high level people that have graduated.
You know what else? You know what? That's not true. I know. I'm pretty sure Facebook was started at Stanford.
Nah. Facebook was started at Harvard.
Oh yeah, not
Harvard.
Stanford. Yeah.
Zuckerberg stole it from the crew kid at Harvard. That's where it was.
Yeah, that's right. Anyways, so
that's
there's actually so Braxton Whitehead. That's who I said I was. Braxton Whitehead is he plays hockey in the Western Hockey League for the Regina Pats or the Regina Pats. I don't know how you say it if you're from there. But the Western Hockey League is a part of what's called the Canadian Hockey League, which is the premier junior league. It's a major junior hockey league in Canada. There's 3 different leagues that span the entire country. Now, right now, Braxton Whitehead just got a verbal commitment from Arizona State. Now, he's not committing to Arizona State. Arizona State is committing to him. And the reason being is that for the longest time and forever, the NCAA and Division I hockey banned those athletes playing in major junior in Canada from playing in the NCAA. Now, this is a big hockey thing because as a player who is good enough to play in these leagues, like you are on the track to play professional hockey one day. Like that is why you're there. So you had to choose, like, is my fastest path or my best path to the NHL to forego playing college hockey and play major junior? Or is it better, or do I care more about going to the university, getting my education while also putting myself in a position to play pro hockey? Now, a couple of weeks ago, at the beginning of the summer, another player, actually, his name's Ryan Masterson, challenged the rule and opened up a court case, a class action lawsuit against the NCAA, saying that you need to allow these players to be able to play in college hockey. Now, the reason they are not is because in major junior, you have players who have signed entry-level contracts with the NHL, and rather than have them play in the AHL, teams will have them play major junior for another year. And also, players receive a max stipend of $250 a month. So you're being paid a stipend to live, right? Because you're not at home. So I guess no different but you're paying for room and board,
right?
Or a scholarship in a sense,
yep.
Right? And you have people that are so so the NCAA classifies major junior as pro, which is why you lose eligibility.
Got it.
So the whole idea is Arizona State is saying to this kid, hey, listen, we believe that this thing's going to go through and this is going to be allowed. And by 2026, when you're ready to come to college, like we're going to have a spot for you.
And here's my thing. If that's the case, right, and they do change that rule, this kid goes to Arizona State. Is that also opening the door for looking at how this recruiting landscape's going to go? Because then wouldn't you think if you're another Division I hockey school, you're going to go recruiting up there instead of doing your normal high school recruiting?
Well, absolutely. And so you're going to recruit from both now, you know, and the conversation.
It's like a transfer.
Well, the conversation that typically happens is on 2 fronts. So like the first is, you're not in school in major junior, but, in most cases you actually can earn an education from one of the Canadian universities while you're playing there. I think there are some relationships amongst the teams and the universities, but the other piece is that's always been kind of talked about is they probably play close to 60 to 80 games in major junior for a regular season. So you think about my own development, whereas in the NCAA Division I, I'm playing, I think, a regular season of 35 with max potential of maybe 45 games. And so you looked at someone like, like an Adam Fox on the Rangers, Norris Trophy winner in his, I think, his third year. One of the things he talked about early on in his career was the stamina to play an 82 game season. Now, if you grow up in the States, then you have an affiliation towards college. There's something there, right? But if you are a high end player who doesn't need to go to college, think about the basketball players who don't need college. Think about, in football, you need to go to college, but like in basketball and baseball, in some cases, you don't necessarily need to go to college either. It really gives them a choice. Now they could go maximize their potential at the junior level, and they could come play at university if maybe it looks like they're not going to be a first round draft pick, or they're probably going to have, it's not a direct path. By the way, competition gets better now, right? Competition gets better, development changes. Maybe it takes me a little bit longer to get to the NHL, but rather than bumming around some semi-pro leagues with no degree, I can go take another 4 years. I'm done now at 26 years old from playing.
Mm-hmm.
And
let's say you didn't get drafted again, but you're right. You have a degree and you had a chance to make money while you were doing it.
The trickle down of talent makes everyone better.
Yeah.
Is really what happens.
So let me ask this last question here. So when you're looking at all this, we talked about a little bit from the football side or the other sports side. Now we're talking about it from the hockey side. If Rocky right now, who wants the NCAA to get him some based on his write-up today on screen, if you were to say the NCAA looks like blank in 2030, what would your guess be?
I think that the NCAA looks much like, in reality, and I'm going to say it and you're going to laugh, but it looks more, when it comes to athletics, it looks like relegation. It's true.
You're right.
But
though.
the money that's being awarded on TV contracts comparative to what each individual school is able to earn, that is how the money is allocated in these leagues.
Yeah.
Right? Your TV contract money, right? Like, and you're watching it. Just go watch some of the documentary. Like, go study how the money is dispersed amongst the different leagues in Premier League football, in the EPL. Just go look at it. And it tells you the same story, right? If you're good enough to compete, then you're going to earn a greater share of the money that's being earned by that conference.
And if you're not
which
good,
means,
we're getting rid of you.
By the way, which means you can go invest in your facilities.
Yeah.
And you can go get a bigger stadium. So the motivation then for universities and schools, which I think why this works, it aligns with go become good at the sport, at the practice, and you'll be rewarded with more money. Yeah. Right. So if I can go have a premier program, develop the athletes, and put a product on the field that is competitive, then I'm going to get rewarded by playing higher talent and earning more money. That's how that works. And that's kind of what you need here, because if it is just about the money and it is just about the contracts, well, nothing's ever going to change. And your athletic experience is really going into the tube, right? Because at the end of the day, you're just going to be looking over the fence at everyone else. And like, it's just never as good for them as it is for me. And that's no way to live playing in college athletics if you're not at the highest level.
It's just so wild to think that I was in college athletics 15 years ago. Like, it's not that long ago. And this is now the conversation we're having. And I'm not even halfway through my lifetime on this earth, if you counted 100 as the regular number. Like, that to me, Rock, that is a crazy change and good for the athletes. All right, so I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock here to end the show. I know that there's more hockey than just the NCAA side on the docket. So if you want to run through anything you think is important for the people, I'm going to give you the special sports music because I think it's more fun that way. Are you ready?
Yeah, and I'm probably going to go somewhere else, just so you know.
Oh, even better. Okay, Hockey with Rocky going somewhere else in 3, 2, your floor.
So NHL training camps are opening up, and I don't have enough information to give you a great preview. So I owe the Romo Sapiens and the rest of the followers, some insight. What I will say there is that my early research shows people are high on the New Jersey Devils.
I've been reading
high on the Devils.
Excited.
Now, staying in Newark, New Jersey, but going to the Devils' former residence of the Meadowlands, I need to hum a few bars on the New York Football Giants.
Your floor is yours.
If the New York Giants were playing hockey, they lost 7-3 on Sunday. They lost 7-3. You gave up 7 scoring drives. If someone wants to sit here and tell me that Daniel Jones was the reason, or the offense, or you didn't have a place kicker because you lost the game, I'm sorry, you're not paying attention to what's actually happening. When you let someone score more times than you should lose the game. You let the other team score 7 times. Oh, I can't believe what I'm fascinated about, and maybe this is why I'm not a football guy, the amount of people who said, yeah, but they only gave up field goals. You let them score. They didn't punt. You let Jaden Daniels, a rookie coach, he didn't punt.
He did whatever he wanted.
Washington Commanders, their punter, we didn't have a place kicker. Their punter didn't even need to show up to the game.
It's so true.
They scored 7. We lost 7-3. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, you should have won the game. You scored 3 touchdowns. No, we scored 3 points, and they scored 7. We got smoked.
Yeah, football just counts their points weird in 3s and 6s and 7s.
I mean, like, oh, that's like saying, oh, yeah, we should have won because we scored more. We only scored 3s, and we let you only score 2s. Like, no, they scored more points than you. They scored more times.
Rocky, 1 more minute. This is very entertaining.
I don't understand why no one's paying attention to the fact that the Washington Commanders did not punt the football one time in 60 minutes.
I agree. I think it's just one of those things where Daniel Jones played kind of good enough that you're like, oh, they should have won this game, and you start forgetting that your defense just is not playing very good.
How do you not stop? You didn't stop one person.
Listen.
You didn't have 1 3 and out.
So needless to say, Rocky's not happy with the New York Giants right now.
Yeah, I'm just, you know what? I'm not. It's not that I'm not happy with the Giants, right? Because I thought that they got better game to game, right? I'm not happy with the way in which people are attacking the Giants.
Sure,
it is extremely annoying. By the way, what's Deshaun Watson doing? What is Trevor Lawrence doing? Right? Where if those guys played in New York, could you imagine?
Oh, they would get eviscerated. I've been saying this every week. Every week they get eviscerated. Would you like to finish?
You lost 7-3. I don't care.
All right, so let's do this. Before we say goodbye today, should we settle on Tuesday next week? Should we settle on Wednesday again? What are you thinking for your schedule? I know the birthday celebrations are in the past now.
No, I think we should be good to get back on the Tuesday.
On Tuesday.
Yeah, we should be
all
good.
Right, so right now, the people need to understand. I'll let Rocky on the show like 5 minutes earlier too next time. That's on me. I
was here.
Yeah, I know. This whole thing is wild. Like I got the MLB standings. All right, ready? So like I'll put them on the screen. I'm like, oh, here's the American League. Here's the National League. We were going to break it down. Then I have this thing. I was putting that on the screen. And then there's Rocky in the bottom corner over there. And I saw it too. I'm like, I didn't put 4 things up on the thing. And then I see your message in the corner. I'm like, oh no. That was Rocky the whole time. So I am sorry for that. So I thought we could go a little bit over today to give Rocky his just due since he joined us for Orlando today. Rocky, last thoughts before we say goodbye.
NASCAR playoffs. I think there's 2 more races in the first round. Remember, 4 drivers get eliminated every round on their way to crowning a champion. So about, I think 14 more races overall. So stay tuned for Chevy.
We're definitely breaking that down next Tuesday. Rocky Romanella, everybody, back with Hockey with Rocky. That's a good sign. Enjoy Orlando, sir.
Later.
And ladies and gentlemen, you know what I do? I call that the Rome Show, 12ouncesports.com, Dingo TV channel 217. If you were wondering, I think Kettle Marte is going to have a hit today versus the Rockies. And I think the Tigers are going to beat the Royals. If you want to put some bananas down on that, you should. I'm Andrew Romanella saying be electric today. And I will see you tomorrow at 7 a.m. Peace.
Thank you for listening.